All right, we are live. It is Friday in sub-zero temperatures. The weather outside is frightful, but here it's quite delightful. I'm so glad to have heat and be inside. I just got outside, took a walk with my CFO, which is my Chief Fun Officer, also known as my dog, Louie. So today we're going to talk about the two mistakes. They're actually critical mistakes that kill sales growth. Their leadership mistakes. As Jocko Willink would say from his book, Extreme Ownership, if there's a problem in the business, and this includes sales, it's your fault. Not your fault, unless you're a leader on the other side of this, seeing this video, and your sales are not where they should be, it is your fault. Got that? Great book, by the way, on leadership, Jocko Willink, Extreme Ownership. So today we're going to talk about the two critical leadership mistakes that kill sales. So stay tuned. If you solve these problems, and they're really minor changes that you can make rather quickly, as long as you remove your ego, very important component, you can make the changes which will ensure that you have the right salespeople that will stay longer and will reach places that you never imagined that they will go. And guess what? They'll take your business with them as they grow. So let's get into this. So the first thing is, and I work with businesses in this particular range that struggle the most, anywhere from $1 to $15 million in sales with B2B businesses. This is so common. These two different mistakes. First, leadership mistakes. First, there isn't a proven sales process or a selling system. Those are two distinct things. The sales process are the specific steps in the process, like prospect, meeting, discovery meeting, strategies, whatever you name those steps, those are the process that your salesperson walks through. That should be very clear so they understand the process that they go through. Now, selling system is what you do in each one of those steps of the sales process. For example, when I work with clients, it's two parts of the selling system or sales methodology is research and intention. If you don't do research, if you don't have the right intention, then the rest of the selling system will not have a strong foundation to stay on. It will be like building your selling system on a house of cards. Those things are two critical things that need to be in place. Why? Because if your salesperson isn't doing research, and it's so easy with ChatGPT or an AI tools to understand not only the company, but the specific prospect that you're meeting with, the decision maker that you should be meeting with, guess what? They're going to show up and you're going to not command respect because they're going to know that you really don't know them or their business. The second is intention. Is if you don't go with the right intention, then they're going to smell that. And I'm talking about intention to serve, not sell, and you will attract and not repel. Sales is not about getting people to buy the thing that you want to sell them. It's about helping them identify and break through those obstacles that are keeping them stuck, that are keeping them from achieve their goals so they can achieve their goals. Two people, one with a solution, one with a problem. You should be coming together in sales. So you get rid of the buyer defense system, and the intention is very important. Research is very important. So when you come together, you're in alignment. Now you have the person with the problem, the person with the solution. You work together in alignment, very important, in alignment to solve the problem and give them the solution so they can reach their goal. I was talking with, and this is not just this occurrence, this story that I'm telling you that is true, I've seen happen hundreds and hundreds of times in conversations I had with founders in this business between 1 to 10 million, 15 million sometimes. So they can sell as the founder, but they don't want to sell anymore. And they still want to start working on their business and not in their business. And so wisely, they want to bring on a salesperson. But the problem is a salesperson cannot sell like a founder. A founder doesn't have to have a selling system because they have belief in their business and in their product. And plus, they're highly motivated because what they earn is directly tied to the business growth. Now, sales, you have some component with that, but it's not as there's not as big a piece of the pie as if you were the founder. And the number one thing in sales is belief in the product, the service, and the company. You can have the sales process and the selling system, important. We're addressing that here. But if you don't believe in the product, the service, the solution, it's going to be very difficult to sell. I can take a senior salesperson that knows this sales process, selling system, tactics, techniques, inside and out, and a newbie salesperson who doesn't know the sales process, is just learning. And the newbie believes in the product and the service, the solution, the company, but the experienced sales pro doesn't. Guess who's going to outsell the other? The newbie. Because belief. Sales is everything in life happens up here. The battle is up here. So the founder believes in their business, and so they sell, usually without a sales methodology. Not all the times. If they have a sales background, yes. But this is what I see, is they don't want to be in sales anymore, or they're realizing, hey, I want to work on the business, and so I'm going to have people work in the business, and in this particular case, in sales. So they hire them. And in this one particular case, we'll call the guy Rob, not his real name. He came to me and he's like, man, I'm really frustrated. There are no good salespeople out there. I'm like, tell me what's going on. He goes, and this was the story after story after story. I have a sales rep, and this guy's Jim, and he seemed promising. He came in and he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't getting appointments consistently, sales. And so he was gone in 5 months. And then we hired Susie, and same thing. She lasted 7 months. And it was like 5 different scenarios like this that were very similar. And I said, you were the salesperson for the company before, right? Yes. Okay. What sales process are they working through? And he said, well, and he just like listed, I go, do they know what the sales process is? And do you know specifically? If I ask them, will they be able to tell me without you educating them first? He said, probably not. I said, okay, that's a problem. That's a red flag. I said, how about the sales methodology, or some people call it selling system? He's like, what's that? That's how you carry out each step in the sales process. And I went through, research and intention before, and then it's about when you meet, initially, it's about developing a genuine connection. Some people call it rapport. I rather develop a genuine connection, okay? If you don't have this, then it's going to be really difficult to go into the uncover stage, okay? And that's where you uncover the problem, what it's costing them, and how that problem is keeping them from reaching a goal or objective, okay? So they keep running into this obstacle. And so we went back and forth. He's like, yeah, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on sales reps. And so he hired me. And so we put together a proven sales process and selling system that were in alignment with one another. And now he had salespeople know what to do, what not to do. And the longevity of sales reps went up from like 6 months to 2.5 years. So the first critical mistake is not having a proven system and process in place. Selling system and sales process, 2 distinct things. Reps, without clarity, they're going to guess. The results are going to be inconsistent. And guess what? You're going to have a high level of burnout with these sales reps. And so they'll come in and leave, come in and leave, come in and leave. You get the point? All right. Proven system and process, very important. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, below is a link to get my complimentary book. It's complimentary from me to you, the B2B Blueprint to Predictable Sales. And I go through this in depth there. So that's my gift to you all. If you're watching this on Facebook or LinkedIn, just send me a DM or comment below, and I'll make sure you get a copy of my book, the B2B Blueprint to Predictable Sales. All right. Great people don't fail because they are lazy. They fail because They don't have a clear way of knowing what to do and what not to do. Okay. That's a recipe for disaster. The number 2 mistake I see leaders making is they have just the opposite, an overbearing system. And I'll give you a couple examples from my personal sales experience when I was working for other companies as a sales rep. The first one was a company, good service, and they had a sales process in place. Selling system was okay, but the CEO, he used to work for Xerox. And if you're not familiar with Xerox, what they had their sales reps do, it was 30 in-person cold calls each and every day. I mean, that was the Bible. That was the 10 Commandments, 30 cold calls each and every day. So the CEO was a sales rep there. He started his company and he had this mindset. These are one of the 10 Commandments, 30 in-person cold calls each and every day. And you might be saying, well, Chaz, what's wrong with that? Let me tell you what's wrong with that. If you just focus on the activity, the expectations, and not the standard for the activity, then you're going to have dismal results and you're going to waste your sales reps' time. And let me explain this. So 30 cold calls. So you're going to, I got to get these 30 cold calls in. Okay, I'm at 28. Let's get 2 more in. I'm done. Yay. So what happened here is I was doing these cold calls and these cold calls and these cold calls. I'm like, as I was doing them, I'm like, I'll bet you I can get 2 to 4 meetings doing these in-person cold calls within 10 cold calls. So I had a competition with myself. I raised the standard for what I was doing as opposed to thinking, I'm going to do 30 cold calls. Oh man. I mean, it was draining. And so I changed my tactic and my strategy and my technique. Tactic is what you do. That's the cold call. Technique is how you execute on the tactic. That has to do with your tone, your body language and whatnot. Communication is 7% words, 38% tone, and 55% body language. If you just focus on the words and you don't focus on the body language, the 55% and the 37% tone, you're going to be wasting your time. And a lot of the sales reps were going through the motions with 30 cold calls, but they weren't scheduling many meetings. So with my new tactic, strategy, and technique, one day I got 4 meetings in a row. And then I walked into the CEO's office, and these 30 cold calls would take a lot of time, and hours each and every day. But I can get 2 meetings usually within 15 minutes to 40 minutes tops. And so I approached the CEO and I said, and he was a reasonable guy, but he was also stuck in so many times. Oh my goodness. We do today because what we did yesterday, and we don't realize that what we did yesterday is limiting to what we're going to do today. And so I had a conversation with him, and I realized his background. I go, I understand this is what you did, and you were successful. You're the business owner. You started this company. Congratulations. And they were doing several million, and they had 14 locations. And I said, do you care more about me getting 30 cold calls a day? Or let's say if I get 2 to 4 meetings, qualified meetings, what do you care more about? And he said, well, 2 to 4 meetings. I said, that's going to be my focus from now on. He goes, that's good. So guess what? I spent less time. I scheduled more meetings. And in that company, I became the top sales person within 2 years. I broke all the sales records for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years period in that company. And that was a big part. He allowed me with my creativity to work within a system, but not to they were overbearing at first, but they allowed the chains off, so to say, to give me the freedom to operate within the system and a process and to use my creativity and my unique skill set. That's what you want to do. You want to have a sales rep. You want to have a system where they know what to do, what not to do, and a selling system so they understand as they're going through the sales process, how to go through with research, intention, genuine connection, or uncovering the problem, how it's impacting them, how it's keeping them from reaching a goal or objective. And yes, but if it's so overbearing, they're not going to be able to use their unique flair. In every personality type, everyone out there, you listening to this and watching this, you have a unique quality about you that no one else has. And don't stifle your salespeople by making them so overbearing that you got to do this, and you got to do this. Focus on being effective in getting results, giving them a framework, but giving them the freedom so that you break those shackles, you open the cell door so they have the freedom to express themselves within a proven system and process. And then the other side of this is another one of my experiences. This CEO and founder, he didn't have a sales background, and he was a very successful guy, a very intimidating guy. He was 6'4", probably like 350, former Marine, and he ruled with an iron fist. No one talked in the sales meetings because if he said anything he didn't like, he would just like, ah. Now that is a video for another day about toxic leadership. That's not about today. What this person did, and we'll call this person Tim, not his real name, is he said, Chad, I was making cold calls on the phone. He walked by my office and he just I noticed he was just lingering outside my office. And I'm like, what does he want? Because he was either screaming at you or nice, but you never really knew what you're kind of going to get. Kind of like Forrest Gump in the box of chocolates. You know, his mom said, Mama used to always say, life's like a box of chocolates. Well, sales reps would always say, Tim is like a box of chocolates because you never knew what you're going to get. So anyway, after my cold call, Tim hit the button and said, hey, Chaz, can you come to my office? I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done now? So I go into his office and I didn't know what I was going to get. And like, yeah, he goes, were you talking to the CEO of the company? I said, yes. He said, don't. I saw his jaw tight, don't. I'm like, why not? He goes, starting this company, I know who to talk to and who not to talk to. And what we sell them is a waste of their time and money because we're at the bottom of the priority list. You need to go to the materials manager, the senior buyer and whatnot, or the purchasing manager. That's who you talk to. That's who we do. And their sales cycle, by the way, was like a year. Okay. That should tell you something in and of itself. So I pushed back a little bit on that, but I was intimidated. I was scared. So I didn't push back. So I started doing things the way that Tim wanted me to do those. Overbearing, taking away from my flair and creativity. And so I remember I was meeting with this one buyer, and it was about a year. And it was like a 90-minute drive there, 90-minute drive back. So that's 3 hours of my day just for driving there. Many calls. I don't remember how many meetings we had over the course of the year. I remember 12 months. It was almost like exactly to the day, somewhere around there, maybe like 11 and a half, maybe a little bit over. I was meeting with the buyer, and this was what I thought would be the time we finally get them to come on board and start a purchase with us. And she said, Chaz, and I'll never forget what she followed with, we don't need your services. And so we ended the meeting nicely, and I was mad. I had just wasted, I don't know how many hours, probably like 50 hours out of my life doing things the way Tim wanted to do. And so what I was about to do in that instant changed my life. If I didn't do what I did then, I probably would not be here today to tell you about what I'm about to tell you. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't be alive, but I wouldn't be where I am in the position I'm in if I didn't make this decision. So I got in my car. I was mad. Have you ever felt that way? Where someone's trying to control you and you have a sense to do something, but you're afraid? Okay? Don't live that way. I did for too much of my life. Be bold and speak the truth empathetically. Okay? It's not about, you're wrong. you need to understand how to influence. And that goes back to the how to communicate, 55% body language, 38% tone, and 7% words. Anyway, so I got in my car. I remember it was a sunny day. It was like maybe 60 degrees. There's some clouds in the air. I don't know why I noticed those, but I'm just like, oh. I looked at the phone in my car and I thought, So what I did, I picked up my phone. I called the company where the buyer just rejected me, or I should say redirected me. Big difference in how you think about that. And I called the company and I got through to the president of this manufacturing company. I scheduled a meeting, and a week later I met with the president, and he brought the buyer in. It was interesting. I could see her walking down the hall. He goes, wait a second, I'm gonna have my buyer come in here. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I could see her walking in, but now it was him and me, and she sat there kind of sheepishly, if you can imagine that. Long story short, 45 days later, because I went to the president, not 12 months, 45 days later, they became a client and started spending anywhere between $50,000 to $75,000, then around $100,000 a month with us. So I didn't say anything to my boss, Tim, but he started noticing the sales numbers and whatnot, and he called me into his office again, remember? So I go in there, I'm like, yeah. He goes, Ches, what are you doing differently? I see your numbers coming up. Good job. He says, so tell us what's going on. And I said, you promise not to yell at me? He said, yes. What's going on? And I said, well, I followed and I told him the whole story about the 12 months and whatnot. And I said, I went back to what I know is reaching the main decision maker. I got through to him, and 45 days later, and that's why that account came on. And so I stopped talking to the buyers and sellers, and I started talking to the main decision makers. And you could see my sales. So he promoted me to national sales manager, and we had 5 locations, and he had me train all the sales reps in my system. So as a leader, it doesn't have to be sales. It could just be a leader in general. You want a system and process for your team to work within that's proven, but they may come up with ideas to improve that system and improve that process. You got to give them the freedom. So in one sense, you give them guidelines to work within. In another sense, you're not overbearing and restricting them from being their unique, God-given identity, which can speak life into your business if you give them the freedom to operate without fear, to come up with ideas and act on them. Really important. If you stifle creativity or just have such an overbearing system, you're going to have people that burn out time and time again. If you have a system and process that isn't proven, you're going to have people going like this. Both are wrong. So the thing that works is proven system, proven process, have them in alignment with one another, and give your people the freedom to use their skills and unique qualities to take them and your business to the next level. Do that, and you'll go to places you never thought possible in your business, and you'll have people that will be around to help you grow your business, and you'll help them have lives that they never thought or imagined.